Well, it's time for another Rogers Capital market commentary, where we attempt to be the antidote to water cooler wisdom. Well, it's September. Fall is here. We're back to school. There's cooler weather on the way, and some rain, and it's football season. The month of August started out pretty good and kind of a continuation of the rebound in July. And then things took a turn. We ended up down 4% for the month, which puts us at a year to date of negative 17. With 2 months left before the midterm elections, it is officially silly season. That's right, 60-ish days until election day. What we see in this point of the election cycle is that most data is seen first through a political lens, and then real, unbiased economic analysis may be second, if at all. For example, are we in a recession? Now, for decades and decades and decades and decades, 2 negative quarters of GDP growth is a recession. Now, we've talked in previous videos about the National Bureau of Economic Research and some of the other things we've been watching. But of course, political times right here, 60 days out, we've got one side claiming big time recession, the worst economic environment we've ever seen, right, to score political points, which is how it goes. Now, granted, not a lot of sunshine right now. I don't have a lot of positives for you. In fact, the Fed's aggressive monetary policy and now a 2% inflation target in really housing, becoming really kind of a concerning downtrend. In fact, to the housing point, I'm not sure the layperson understands the impact of housing on our overall economy. Anywhere from 15-ish, 18-ish% of our total GDP. So you have some news channels suggesting it can't get any worse, right? And yet, the unemployment rate has actually dropped 0.4 percentage points so far this year. Payrolls are up $300,000 to $400,000 to $500,000, 300,000 to 400,000 to 500,000, jobs per month. Industrial production is up about 5.5-ish% annually over the first 6 months of the year, what we have data for so far. This is not 2008. Okay, this is not 2000. On the other side, you've got the administration abusing economic reports for their own political ends. CPI, our inflation monitor, unchanged in July. First month without increase since May of 2020. Does this suggest inflation's going away? Nonsense. The Fed isn't close to done raising rates. The CPI likely peaked in June at 9.1% year over year, but getting from 9.1 to 5.6-ish in 2023 is a chore. And while that's doable, getting from 5 and 6 to 2%, the Fed's target, we're miles from. That'll be the hard part. And if you think the Inflation Reduction Act is going to help things, well, I have a bridge to sell you. The economy, the labor market, supply chain, all of these contributors to inflation and remaining a very serious problem. Now, July and August, at least the first part of August, had a little rebound, and then it was cut short by 2 things. The first, Fed Chairman Powell's attempt to channel the ghost of Paul Volcker and suggesting that further pain and suffering should be the expectation for businesses and American households. And then to follow that up, silly season, right? The administration's student loan forgiveness program. The more we learn about this plan, the less comfortable Wall Street seems to be with it. For starters, an executive order. It seems like we used to pass laws to do things in this country. I just, maybe not. Maybe I'm imagining things, but for starters, executive order. Secondly, what's the cost of what we're forgiving, what we're doing here? The administration says $240 billion over 10 years. The Committee for Responsible Federal Budgeting, nonpartisan committee, says $440 to $600 billion. Wharton Business School says $1 trillion. But is even that too low? The big deal is, as we get into the fine print, the limiting of future payments by borrowers to 5% of income. And even that only applying after income rises above $30,000. So for example, let's say you have someone go to college, maybe even you're locally at a TCU where it's easy to rack up $300,000 to $400,000 for a 4-year education. And then they get out of school, graduate, get out of school and get a pretty good job making $70,000 a year. Their payments would be limited to 5% of that overage over $40,000. 5% of that $40,000, which is $2,000 a year. And after 20 years, well, all that debt just goes poof. So racking up $400,000 worth of debt, spending 2 times 20 years, $40,000 against that $400,000. What's the cost? How would you even know what the cost is? And what does that do to the cost of college, the decision-making of the student, and the decisions of the universities and colleges? And what does that do for inflation? In the meantime, set aside your political preferences, turn off the TV, follow the economic reports as they are, not as you want them to be because of political spin. Because after all, it's silly season. We'll talk to you next time.